Welcome back to A Father's Love Healing Through Heartache. Last episode, Chris and Dan shared their stories about the day that they lost Miles and Jameson. We continue their stories now, where Chris and Dan will share how their family and friends stepped up on the day of their loss.
After Jameson passed, I know we talked a little bit about this. What were some of the things that people did to kind of help you out and you and Erica get through those first couple hours, couple days, really?
We were very fortunate. Our church family stepped up immediately. Our children's pastor at the time, who Jameson just absolutely loved, and I think our pastor loved Jameson as well. He happened to work at the 911 center, and he went on shift about an hour after the call came in. So he found out very quickly that our family had suffered something. I don't think he knew right away that Jameson had actually passed versus just been taken to the hospital. But I think it was about 8:30, which was about 2. We got home, I think, about 6:30 that morning. And I think it was about 8:30 that he and our student ministries pastor knocked on our door. And they walked in and they just hugged us. I think that's one of the big points for those of you who are looking to help people grieve. They didn't call, they didn't ask, they just came. And they didn't come in with words, they just came in with hugs. And they just wanted us to know that they were there if we needed them. And I know I'm going to talk a lot about no-win situations. I think that everybody that's connected to me is in a no-win situation forever, sadly, because everything you think you want to do or say, it could be wonderfully helpful and it could be wonderfully disastrous. And I hate saying that, but that's the way it is, because, again, any given moment, we don't know what our mindset's going to be. And I actually had a debate with one of my colleagues about just showing up at somebody's house and intruding on them. And from my experience, for me personally, it was a huge help to have them just come. You don't have the energy to answer phone calls. You certainly don't have the energy to have people call and say, "What happened? Tell me about it." I want people to understand that every time we are asked what happened, we're reliving hell. And there's no nice way to put that. Every time that we're asked, how did Jameson die? We're being asked to relive the absolute worst moment of our life again. And if you're a close friend, again, I know it comes from a good place, but it's not helpful. And if you're a stranger, then certainly there's no good way for somebody that's not in our close circle of friends to ask that question in a way that's not going to just traumatize us even more. But that's what our two pastors came in, and they didn't do that. They just hugged us and they listened, and they let us talk. And Chris talked earlier about struggling with God. I am certainly wrestling with God a lot myself. And that morning, I was beating myself up pretty hard, asking God why he was punishing me. And that was my immediate thought, that Jameson was taken because of something I've done in my life. And I'm very thankful for our two pastors that were there. They kind of grounded me, tried to ground me and reassure me that that's not who God is. And for those of you who are listening, who, whether you're a believer or a seeker or an atheist, it doesn't matter. That's not who God is. That's important to say. But even the strongest, most devoted Christians, which I am far from that, but even the strongest ones have moments where they question God. And that's okay. but they were able to help just talk me through it and try to reassure me that this is not a punishment from God. There's another reason for it. Who knows? But don't beat myself up over that. And then just through the day, we had every one of our church employees came to our house through the day. We were not alone the whole day. And that's very hard because on one hand we want our privacy, we just want to lay in our bed and cry or do whatever, but at the same time we don't want to be alone, and we can't be alone. So again, for me, I think it's important when you're dealing with people, trying to support people who are going through a crisis, is to insert yourself in a non-intrusive way if that's possible, but just be there and make sure that they know that you're there. Even if you go just knock on their door and say, I'm here, I'm going to sit outside, and if you need me, come get me, but I'm going to leave you alone. I think back years ago to our pastor at our Raleigh church. He had knee surgery, and when he got home, he was feeling awful. And he told us the story of one of his best buddies who came to his house, knocked on the door, and our pastor kind of grumbled at it because he wanted to be alone. But his friend said, I'm not letting you be alone. I've got my computer. I'm going to work in that room right there in that corner. I won't bug you, but I'm here if I need you because I love you. And again, for me, that's enormous. Just knowing that somebody is there. Because again, we don't know what's coming our way at any moment. But knowing that right around the corner is somebody that cares, that we can say, hey, I really need this. It helped me a lot. And then, so we just went through the day with people just sitting there, just listening to us, hugging us, loving on us. And then, I think everybody probably knows this, meals. We had meals delivered right away. Meals is an obvious, easy one. When you hear of somebody going through something, take them a meal. Even if they say they don't want it, take them a meal. And if they don't answer the door, leave it on their doorstep. Because I'd be willing to bet that most people would eventually open that door and grab the meal and be like, wow, I needed that. Because the last thing we want to do when we're grieving is think about what's for dinner. So that was pretty much our first day. I hope everybody at least can hear a few things that helped our family maybe get some ideas for ways that they can support people that they care about while grieving. So, Chris, what about you?
Those are some great things. Like you said, the meals, 100%. I am not in the mind frame to feed myself or my kids, to be honest. It was very difficult to be thinking about that stuff. So people bringing stuff, wow, what a big thing. Another thing that helped our family a lot for sure is obviously us being in Idaho, and we wanted Mason buried in Buffalo. We had some friends set up a Facebook fundraiser and a GoFundMe, and all that money coming in sure helped a ton, covering the funeral costs, covering his headstone, covering plane tickets, just everything we needed. We didn't have to worry about it. It was one less thing to worry about, and I can't thank those people enough for setting that stuff up for us, because what a in the worst moment, now you might think, oh, this might be the most difficult financial thing I have to deal with. People don't really realize, or at least I really didn't. I've never had to plan a funeral before. The expenses that come with it, between the casket and the funeral home. I had to pay for 2 funeral homes because Mason was in the mountain home and then in Buffalo. The arrangements, the plot, the digging of the plot, the headstone. There's so many expenses that I had no idea were involved, and that those donations truly, truly helped. And like you said, I think for me, just checking on us, like you said, even if it was just through an email or a message, like, hey, I might not talk on the phone, but hey, yeah, I'll do this quick instant message and reply back to you. Thank you for checking on me. just knowing that those people were there, they didn't even have to say anything about it. Just knowing that they were there, just a quick message like, "Hey, I'm here for whatever you need," and I'm like, "Okay, thank you." Such a huge thing. You know, Dan, our situations are a little different in the sense that me being in the military, my parents and my mother-in-law were there, but other than that, my family is all the way on the other side of the country, and they help me as much as they can. I love them all so much. Everyone in my family did everything they could for us, and but I got to thank my military family too, because times of crisis, we're all one big family, and but whether it be all my firefighter friends and family, or the people that even just lived on my street. I lived in base housing on base, and they lit lanterns all over the street one night for us and had a memorial for Mason. Those little things that they're so important now. People told stories about Mason on the street and them playing with the kids and how impressed they were with them. And I think a lot of times when bad things like this happen, they're afraid to talk about the person who passed. But to be honest, I want to hear the stories about Mason. I want to hear the great things. I want to hear how he had fun with you. I want to hear what he did. I want to hear what he did that made you laugh. I want to hear those good things. Yes, it is doom and gloom. It is horrible. We don't have our boys anymore. But we still want to hear the good things, because we have all those bad things playing around in our mind every single moment. Give me a good distraction. Tell me some good memories you have of my boy. Help lift my spirit for the day. I think that's a lot of people did that, and it really helped out quite a bit.
Yeah. I think that's a key point, and I know we're going to talk about that in future episodes. But one of the main things I hear from people in my life is, I don't know what to say. And I want to say I understand that, but I don't understand it. Just like you all don't understand what Chris and I are going through, we don't understand what you're going through in trying to stay connected with us and help us. And we get that, we respect that. But for those of you who are worried about what to say, I think Chris just nailed it. Silence is awful. Hearing memories is nothing's good. I mean, we lost our sons. Nothing's good. But hearing the memories and just knowing that you are there to care, at least for me, is huge. The memories, they're not going to fix anything. We're still going to hurt. But at least for that moment, my heart warms up just a little bit. So there's no way that we're going to get out of the valley that we're in, but at least maybe we're an inch higher, and it helps. So please, and if you've got no stories to share, for me at least, just simple words, hey, I'm thinking about you. Or just like Chris said, just know that I'm here. I'm thinking about you. I care. Simple words that let us know that we're not on an island. Because I think pretty much everybody that goes through a loss like this knows that the first week or month we're going to be totally flooded with people, and then we know realistically that people are going to go back to their lives. And we're 2 years into it, and people are back in their lives. And and again, we get that. I don't want to come across as ungrateful or judgmental or anything like that, because I'm not. I get it. But we hope that you can remember that Erica, Reese, and I are on our island forever. So just if you'd come over to the island once in a while and just tell us that you still care about us, it would mean a lot.
Yeah, I think great point. The island, that it is a lonely island sometimes. We're coming up on the 1 year mark of not having Mason with us, and I can honestly say though, for me, I think because I post my runs, miles for Mason, people still remember and they know, and they still check on me and Amanda, and I appreciate that very much from everyone. But speaking of what people could do to help us, let me talk a little bit about what did not help that first couple days or month after. I really want to say right off the bat, I appreciate everybody reaching out, first off, that did. because they took time out of their day to check on me. But I just want to say that comparing losses is not the way to go about it. Saying I lost my dog a month ago, I lost my grandfather 6 months ago. Different griefs for sure. And I don't try to downplay your grief at all, but I just understand they're very different griefs. If you don't have kids, it's hard to explain the amount of grief that comes from losing them with them passing away. So I think that was the hardest thing for me. I probably got, I'd say 10 messages, actually, quite a bit of comparisons. Like I lost my dog. I lost my grandfather. I lost my grandmother. And I understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to have us connect in some way, say, hey, I understand what you're going through. But for me personally, it was more difficult. Like, you can't compare. It's not the same. I'm sorry about your loss. Not the way I want us to connect right now, personally. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that really was difficult for me right off the bat is people telling me, hey, you need to be strong for your loved ones, for Amanda and the boys. Gosh, I don't even know what to say about this. Like, we're all struggling. Amanda, the boys, myself. Me being strong for them at that moment isn't gonna lessen or dull the pain at all. So I don't know why that one irked me a little bit. I don't know if you had ever dealt with that, Dan. If anyone ever said, "Hey, you need to be strong for everyone," and I'm kind of like, I'm hanging on by a thread here. I don't know if I can be any stronger, to be honest with you. Yeah. Again, and I really think that's people trying to be supportive, but not really understanding the gravity of the situation because they haven't dealt with it before. Right. Have you ever dealt with that, Dan?
I haven't had that particular statement, but the overwhelming majority of people I've talked to in preparing this podcast and stuff have heard that. And absolutely, I think, and I can't speak for the wives. I cannot even begin to tell you what Erica thinks. But I know listening to Chris say that, as Chris and I both have already shared, we're already beating ourselves up tremendously, feeling like a failure as a father and a husband, just for the fact that we lost our sons, even though there was nothing we can do about it. For me to hear, if I was to hear somebody say, hey, you need to be stronger, that to me would just be another punch in the gut of, man, what a failure you are, because you can't even support your wife. And I agree with Chris. Again, we're not trying to be judgmental or anything, but we want this to be real and help everybody think about it, where your words matter. They matter a lot. And we know that they come from a good place with good intentions. But we're in the lowest point of our lives. And it's hard enough without certain words.
Yeah, and we're gonna, as we keep going with this podcast, that's part of our goal, is to explain to people what we're going through. And if you haven't had to deal with this grief, which I really hope you haven't, explain to people, hey, here's how you can actually help. Here's what worked for us, and here's what maybe will work if one of your friends have to go through this tragedy. We're trying to educate people the best we can. We're only experts because we've lived the game. Other than that, we don't have any degree in this, but when you live it every single day, we can definitely tell you what works and what doesn't. So take it for just our word at what it is, but hopefully it'll help you and being able to help someone else in the future.
Absolutely. I think just listening to Chris talk, there's two more really quick things I do want to share that helped me. One of them is actually back in 2015 when my mom passed away, but it fits. For everybody who wants to support a loved one or a friend who's grieving, think about your time and your talents. We had two of Erica's really good friends that right away when they heard the news, they're like, we're going out there. And they came out that first weekend, and they were totally unobtrusive. They didn't want to talk. They came to clean. They cleaned our house. They went shopping and bought us a million paper products, which is huge because, again, when we're grieving, we don't want to think about what's for dinner, and we certainly don't want to do dishes. So they bought us paper products, paper towels, toilet paper. They made sure that we were well stocked for probably a couple months with things so we wouldn't have to do dishes for a long, long time. They organized they as the meals were delivered, they helped organize that in our. They cleaned our fridge so that we had room for all the meals that we knew were coming. They didn't ask. They thought, what can I do to help make their life easier? And they came and they did it, and that was absolutely enormous. My colleagues at work, there's two in particular, right away, my boss and my two direct colleagues were like, we got it. Don't even think about it. It's a huge help to know that we don't have to worry about our job in any way. That they were doing everything. And I don't know about non-teaching world, but in the teaching world, it's hard because you got to do lesson plans, and you can't do lesson plans if you don't know where the kids were. But they took it and they went in and they asked the kids, what are you learning lately? And they worked it all out. And then when my mom passed, our best friend, we had to travel to New York for that funeral. She came over to the house, gave us hugs, and she had a huge container of food, snacks for the car, and at that time Jameson was alive, obviously. They had a ton of snacks for the boys. They had little travel car games for the boys. They had some cash for gas money. They had some magazines to read. She just made a wonderful care package of things that she thought would maybe help us on the trip, because she knew again that we've got to go, and hauling two boys for 12 hours is a difficult thing enough. Doing it when you're grieving the loss of a mother is even harder. So it was absolutely perfect. So I encourage people to think about things like that, of where, again, what can you do to take something off of the grieving person's plate? That's, I think, one of the keys. Words aren't needed, but if you can take something off our plate, that is huge.
Yeah, great point. I got to give all the shout out to my brothers and sisters over at Mountain Home Air Force Base Fire Department. I didn't think about work at all, to be honest with you, because I knew they had it. They're an amazing organization, and they picked up for me and took care of everything for me. And of course, I'm very grateful for that. I always will be. They'll always have a special place in my heart. Just knowing that, I didn't have to worry about anything, because I couldn't, even if I wanted to. Being a firefighter, important part of being a firefighter is working shifts and going to emergencies and going to calls. I literally just worked my first shift like a week ago since Mason passed away. So, and that was hard too. But between Mountain Home and here at Dover Air Force Base, the leadership here, understanding the difficulties, not pushing me, but at the same sense, encouraging me, hey, when you're ready, let's get you back out there, because it's my job. And to be honest, I love it. That's what I love to do. That's why I'm a firefighter, and I want to be on the truck. I want to be going to emergencies, but they understood where I was at. So very important point. I agree 100% with that.
Great. Well, I know there was a lot in tonight, I think.
There was, yeah. It was a busy night.
I feel like we could do the same thing about day 2, and we might just end up doing that as we walk through this process.
Yeah.
So, Chris, any last words or thoughts?
Thank you to everyone. To be honest, thank you for supporting us as we're going through this journey together, and I hope we're able to help some people out with understanding what we're feeling, hearing our stories, and how they can help people in the future. I hope they keep listening. We're going to start getting into some episodes soon, having some guests share their stories. And we really are going to be working on answering a lot of the questions that we received in terms of how you can help if you've never dealt with this grief before. And those are the episodes I'm super excited, because as I've learned after Mason passed, there's actually a lot more kids that have passed away than I realized.
Yeah.
As I've met through other groups, I actually, you just don't think about those things. But there's a lot of people that really have no clue on how to help. And I think we can do our best in terms of showing people how they can help, and then encouraging those people that are going through this grief to get the help they need, talk about it, and maybe we'll talk about a mental health episode in the future, Dan, about hey, here's what worked for us in terms of mental health and trying to get back in, living our life and moving forward.
Absolutely. I think we're gonna. I think that's why we're excited that this is going to be a long term project for us, because we're going to talk about everything. And as Chris said earlier, just once we start talking, we have a ton of other things that pop into our head that we want to share. We enjoy sharing about our boys, and we're hopeful that this journey will help all our listeners. So
great. Well, Dan, you got anything else to add?
Nope, just the wrap up. If you've got anything else before that.
No, I just want to thank everyone again for listening to A Father's Love, Healing Through Heartache. We hope you learned something from our episode. It probably was a little difficult to listen to, but like we said, we don't want any fluff. We want you to understand the rawness of this all. So I appreciate everyone listening, and I hope you listen to the next episode.
Absolutely. And again, we're being filtered through all the major podcasts. So if you have any of those, please check us out there and subscribe to us. Check out Jameson's Joy and Miles for Mason on Facebook and all the social media and websites, and follow us there. Share our stories so that our missions for our foundations to honor our boys can make a huge impact, not just in our town, but who knows how far it can spread. And then also we want to keep reminding you, if you have questions or comments, please let us know. You can email us at info@jamesonsjoy.org, and I'll get them to Chris and I to discuss. You can post them on our Facebook pages. You can, however you get them to us, please ask us questions, if you haven't already, of things that you would like us to talk about. And certainly give us feedback. If you found something very helpful or something not very helpful, let us know, because we, like Chris said, we're not experts. We're certainly not experts on podcasts. We're experts on the loss of our son, and we can share those stories, but we're always looking to improve and grow ourselves as we go on this journey with y'all. So, all right. Well, thank you all for listening. Chris, thanks for a great, hard, but great discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. And everyone have a great day.
We'll see you all next time on A Father's Love.